Welcome to the Bill and Kap Show. I'm Bill.
And it's Cap. Good to have you guys here today. This is a Bill guest. I haven't met Troy yet, so I'm super excited for this one. So yeah, Bill, take it away, my friend.
All right, so today we have Troy Good. I've come across Troy at a bunch of real estate meetups. It seems like he's always the star of the room. Everybody wants to know what Troy's got going on and what he's up to. So Troy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, thank you. Good to see you, Bill, and nice to meet you, Jordan.
You too, my
Yeah,
friend.
so tell us a little bit about you. Kind of give us the story as where you're at now. I know Jordan doesn't really know too much about your story. I've heard it a couple times, but what's your business looking like today? And then we can kind of backtrack and talk about how you got there.
Okay, so I'm a contractor. I've been a residential contractor. This is our 31st year, so we have that going. I have a rental portfolio that we buy all kinds of properties and fix them up. Some of them are kind of turnkey, but not most of them. So I have a handful of properties that we're renovating and getting tenants in, and then I also started a business with my boys, two oldest boys, called Good Family Investors, and we're buying properties as well. And then I do coaching with April Crossley and Lazy Girl REI, and so that's been a lot of fun. We have about 30 students across the country, and so I get to really invest in those 30 students, which I like. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. We do flips, we do buy and holds. I just bought some land in Tennessee. Gonna maybe build a cabin down there. I don't know, maybe a tree house or something. I don't know. So
Self-storage
Wow.
facility.
no, it's not a good spot for that, but I like those as well.
All right, sounds good. So tell me about what got you into real estate. I know you have that contractor background. Was it real estate that got you into general contracting work, or general contracting work that got you into real
No,
estate?
so I started as a contractor in 1991 or 92, something like that. I was only 21, so no idea what I was doing, but dove into it and I always say I had no business being in business, but I started. And so I
Beautiful
always had
premise.
oh yeah, I always had an interest in real estate. So I started looking in probably the 95, something like that, and started looking at all these properties. And I had no money, so I don't know how I was going to buy them. At that time, realtors would just show you properties anyway, so nothing about being pre-qualified or anything like that. So I bought my first property then, and I ended up getting like 25 units over the next couple of years, and that was in the late 90s. But I had five young kids. I had a construction company. I was like doing everything myself in every business. So I got burned out. My wife hated it. She didn't like it at all. She was involved with the tenants. So I sold everything in 2005 and 6, which was great. It was right before the crash. I bought low, I sold high, made a good chunk of money. Was able to put on an addition on our house and pay off bills, and but I didn't have the long range plan of like building wealth long term through rentals and stuff. So they were all they cash flowed okay, but they didn't cash flow great, and but they had a lot of equity. So when I sold, I cashed out. Stayed out of it for a while, concentrated on all my construction business. My oldest son, Brandon, decided he wanted to get involved in it. So really just did that for a while. But I had some other partners who were friends that were investing in this other area, and they were like, "You got to invest up here. You got to invest up here." I'm like, "Nope, been there, done that. No thanks. Don't want to do it." So then in 2010, well, 2009, I joined like an REI group up there, a bunch of one of those RIA groups, and just kind of spent a year going to their meetings, investigating this area. I bought a property in 2010 and another in 2012, and that was really kind of it. I'm like, that's fine with me. I don't really want to have a whole bunch. But then I stumbled upon a meeting. There was this woman at a surplus building place that owned it, invited me to what I thought was a open house or something like that, right? And I get there, and it's all these people knew each other, and I was like, this is weird. And I'm just kind of looking around, and I see this woman across the room. She's staring at me like with this this scowl, like mean look at me. I'm like, okay, what is going on here? So she comes walking over and she goes, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Well, who are you?" You know. And she's like, "Well, I'm April
Nice.
Crossley." She's like, "Well, I'm April Crossley." I had no idea who that was. I'm like, "Well, I'm Troy Good." And she's like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Boyertown." And she's like, "People tell me I should invest there." I'm like, "Well, if you're not, you're missing out because it's a good market." Anyway, so she was like, she found out I was a contractor, and of course, and at all these real estate meetings, if they know you're a contractor, all the flippers are all over you, right?
You're the star.
Yeah, they're like they want to talk to you, they want to hire you, and all this, and so she was like asking me why why didn't I buy more properties, and um, eventually I thought about it over the next couple months. I'm like, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to do it. My kids are older now. I don't have as many responsibilities, so I started buying then, and that was January 2019. And since then, we've probably bought about 50 properties. Some we flipped, and we hold probably I don't know exactly, but I have personally like 23 maybe, and then we have 11 with the boys. Well, that's the other part. After last spring, we started a LLC with my two oldest boys and started buying in a different county. So that's kind of what we're doing at the moment. So the
Gotcha.
real estate was something I always had a passion about, and it fits really well with contracting, as you could guess. So
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the shift for you going from okay, it sounds like you're working yourself to the bone, you mid 2000s. What was the shift for you that said, okay, this time is going to be different? How did you know that it wasn't going to consume your whole life again? Were you just kind of prepared that, okay, this might consume my life again, but the boys are older now, I can handle it? Or you're really committed to kind of, delegating tasks and trying to treating it more like a business?
right. So one of the things when I was explaining to April why I didn't want to do it, she said, "Well, that's because you're doing it wrong." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what was I doing wrong?" And just the whole idea of scaling the business, right? And if you've read the book Who Not How, like
Hmm.
finding other people to do the work, and I had successfully scaled my construction business to the point where I was not on the job and I didn't work in the business anymore. So that same idea I understood, and then but I come from a very blue collar, do everything yourself, just work harder, work harder, work harder. And so that whole idea and that concept was difficult. While I understood it, to put it in practice was another thing. So it took some time to do that. But that's how I've been really able to scale and accelerate the real estate business, because I've taken that whole idea and philosophy into the real estate.
Gotcha. So you were able to kind of delegate things in your contracting business. You felt like you took yourself out of the business before. And was that sort of like proof of concept for you? Of like, oh, if I can do it in construction, I can do it in
Yeah,
real estate.
right. And so, and in contracting, it's not as easy as you would think. Like, there's different ways you can do it. And some people, the idea is, well, we'll just hire a bunch of guys, put them on the books. And I can't tell you how many people I talk to that do that, that end up just firing everyone and going back to two or three people.
Yeah.
Or they just sub everything out. So that's kind of what we did. We started what the reason I started doing that. Like, I wanted to do that, but I didn't know how. I didn't have the path. And I always thought, if I could find a roofing crew, I could find lots of roofs to do. And so I don't know how many years ago it was, but my son blew out his knee, like toward the ACL and the meniscus, both like in two places.
Well,
Like, so there are four tears. It was total blowout of his knee. And we were getting ready to do like a 90 square roof, which, the average house roof was maybe 20. So this is a big roof. And to do that, we'd have to bring in lots of other guys to help us. And my son was leading the charge on that. Well, he was now out of work for 12 weeks. And I thought, man, so I had to find another crew to do it, and I found another crew to do it. And I remember that morning, the shingle truck came, and I was talking to the driver, and he's like, "How you doing, Troy?" I go, "Not good." I said, "I'm very nervous." And he's like, "Why?" I said, "Well, I never used a sub crew before, and I'm using them here." And he says, "Oh, don't worry." He says, "These are the same guys that work for all the big companies around here. They all sub out to these same guys." Like, and that's kind of a lot of how it works. So then I started putting my time and effort in finding roof jobs, and then we oversee the jobs and sub it out to those. And been the way that I've scaled my business. And I know I had a mentor who did the same thing like 20 years before me, and he swears by that method. Not everybody likes to do that way. They're going to want to hire all their own people. We do a combination of both. Like in our rental businesses and for our flips, we try and sub out and find contractors to do all the work, just like an investor who doesn't have any experience in contracting would. But the advantage we have is, like, if we have a project that needs to get pushed forward, I can throw our guys from our construction business in and keep it moving.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Now, for some of the probably newer people listening, they might just say or think to themselves, well, if you guys know how to do the work, why don't you just do it yourself? Or well, if these roofing guys, if they do all the roofs, like what do they need you for? Why can't they just go out and find their own roofing jobs? I think we all know why that's different people have different skills, but can you touch on that a little bit as where your value comes in, and and why you kind of choose to go about it that way?
well, we can do a lot more if we do it this way. Um, we can get I can spend my time finding more jobs and lining more up. And these guys, we typically do a roof in a day. Well, most of the guys that I have, if we put them on roofs, they can't do it. It's not in their skill set. They're good at it, but it just takes them longer. So it's really a lot of like positioning people to do what they're best at and what they're fastest at and what they enjoy doing. I'm all about, like, we have to work, so you may as well enjoy what you do, right? I mean, I don't I don't go to bed on Sunday night dreading getting up Monday morning. I'm looking forward to it, and that's kind of crazy to think about because I remember years ago a mentor of mine told me that, and he said I'd work. He said I come home at night, I can't. I go to bed. And he says I can't wait to get up in the morning. I can't even sleep, and I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, really? And
Wow.
there's not. I'm not always excited to get up, but like I'm creating the 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 lifestyle and the business that I want to live in. Like, they say I'm not working to build a life that I have to retire from. I want to have a life that I enjoy, and I don't even look at retirement. Like, I don't like, why would I retire? Like, why would I retire? What would I do? So, I've been able to go down to I was in Florida 3 times this month already. Not no, since the beginning of the year. Tennis. My one son moved to Tennessee, so thought I'm going to start buying properties down there. So I've been down. I was down there already this year. So that's the kind of stuff that I look at. I like to travel with a purpose, and I like business, and I like trying new things. So
So what I want to go back to, this was what, 1995, right? How many years was it that you had those initial 25 units?
the first property I bought was in '96. And it
Nice.
was actually that wasn't we never lived in it. That was just a 2 unit property that we just rented out.
And then you scaled to 25 units. So,
Yeah.
which I think that story's super interesting because most people that haven't gotten deep into this would say, "Oh my gosh, this guy had 25 units. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing. Like, you're ready. He must be great, right?" But clearly, clearly there was something there. So, who was running that? Like, what were the specific actions that you were having to do day to day that were really bogging you down?
So first of all, Jordan, let me tell you this. I also didn't have any money.
Sure.
So, like, I bought all these properties with other, like, I don't. The first one, the guy owner financed it. He owner financed it. Then I was buying a 4 unit a couple years later, and I went and got the blanket mortgage on the two of them, but I already had equity. That's how I got started, and I used that equity to keep going. But um, so who was doing everything? I was doing everything. So I was like running my construction business during the day. I was fixing toilets at night. I literally slept in the basement of the one building one night trying to figure something out. Like, So it was just draining me.
So, like,
I couldn't do it all.
time wise, what exactly were you spending your time on? It sounds like going from building to building, actually doing repairs, because you
Mm-hmm.
had 25 units, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
literally one guy
Yes.
doing the, because you know how often you get a repair? I don't know, once every couple months or something like
Yeah.
that, even if
Right.
it's something dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't have to be a big thing. So you're
Well,
literally every week probably doing a couple different
yeah,
jobs.
and understand that these buildings that I bought were needed lots of rehab. So we did that, but even still, older buildings have required a lot more maintenance. So, but I was also like, you know, taking care of all the tenants, all their needs, all the phone calls from that, all the drama from that, collecting the rents from that. And one of those buildings then that I had, that was a 10 unit, then there were these odd rooms there, and there anyway. I started renting out rooms, so I had like 6 or 7 rooms that I was renting out, and that's a whole nother ball game. Let me tell you.
Just the legwork of leasing
Yeah.
those up and the quick turnover. So let me ask you this: say you took, if it was your knowledge right now, and you had to go back, and let's just say you're in the thick of it, like you got your 25 units, right?
Hmm.
You're cash
Yeah.
flowing to some degree.
Hmm.
What would you have done? Would you still have just sold them all and said, okay, I just got to start fresh? Or you were in that exact same spot, so not a big chunk of cash in your pocket.
Hmm.
You got decent amount of equity, it sounds like, in
Yes.
almost all of these, right? Like, it's not like
Yep.
any of them are negative because the
Right.
market's in the tank. What would you have done at that time? Um, there's
I
so
would.
many things, right? You could
Yeah.
bundle them and refi and pull out cash and start hiring people. Like,
Yeah. I would have tried. I would have tried to find like for the one, I would try and find somebody to help me manage them. Like on the properties we have now, we self manage all of them. But I have a bookkeeper. That was one of the biggest things in scaling my business and growing it. I knew I needed a bookkeeper, and it went through the whole process getting one. But the one I have now is absolutely phenomenal. And I knew I couldn't grow any further until I got that stuff taken care of. And then having a really good accountant. So I have a very good bookkeeper, I have a very good accountant, and they work together because that's the part I hate, right? And then the bookkeeper uh, has systems in place that make things so much easier. And she's constantly developing systems to make things easier for me because she knows she wants information from me. It's hard to get it from me sometimes, and
yeah.
so she creates a system to work around it. So
So
I would,
this is something I'm going through right now as well.
yeah.
This bookkeeping, accounting kind of question and these systems. So, what is your current setup with the bookkeeper? Like, do you have who's doing the receipts? Are you snapshotting these receipts? Is it all hooked up? All you have multiple business accounts, or all hooked up through QuickBooks? Or tell me a little bit.
So first of all, she lives an hour from me. I've never met her in person.
Awesome.
I got her through a mutual business contact that I know him very well, and he uses her and loved her. So she basically, I think, yeah, she has it set up on QuickBooks. What I do is, like, for instance, if I go out or Brandon is buy something, he gets a receipt. The receipt, he writes on the top what property it's for. He takes a picture of it, and it goes through this app we have called Verify, which then goes in and it categorizes it somehow, and she takes them from there. That way, she doesn't have to be constantly asking me about all these transactions. So that's one little thing.
But that's huge, right? Like that. I was talking to my dad. He's a contractor as well about this, and we're talking about this receipt management question. And it's kind of
Hmm.
like you want to minimize work, but at at some point there's certain things you have to do. And so
Yes.
that app, like to me, I use an app I think it's called Smart Receipts or whatever. I
Yeah.
went through I think 12 different apps to find the one that is the easiest. So I
Hmm.
never ever ever don't take a picture of a receipt, and it gets it.
Right.
But if you go to Home Depot, you check out, and then you walk to the parking lot. I'll take a picture of the receipt later. I got to go do this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, and it's a little frustrating and maybe a little cumbersome at first, but that's, if once you get used to doing it, it's not a big deal. What I do is I stick the receipt in my pocket, I walk out to my truck, get in my truck, start up my truck. Before I pull out, I take a picture of that and send it.
I hold
Same
up
thing.
the whole line and just
Uh,
check out. I'm not going to my car. No, I'm
yeah.
taking it.
No, but even that mental system of how you do it, the same thing when I go, most of my transactions I don't have to go to the bank, but the one, I have a credit union that I use, and if I have to go there, I take a picture of that receipt and send it to her right away so she has it because I don't,
And
because
this is
otherwise I get a question about it later and I won't know.
well, it's like these are a bunch of guys sitting around talking about taking pictures of receipts. Like this seems like a boring conversation. This is the this is insanely important, right? Like
hmm hmm
these specifics, these tiny little bullshits, right?
Yep.
But this is what takes a business from you're just a single-handed dude, and it's that
hmm
next level, right? Single-handed guy. You're just kind of, oh, God, I got to go to this job. I'm rushing. I'm doing
Yeah.
all these things. You got a million things in your head. It's like every little tiny thing that is a hassle, you make a system for it, and
Yes.
the extra time and the extra little annoyance, and then down the road, well, you could have easily managed those 25 facilities.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yes. And that's kind of why, since we don't seem to have a very good property managers in our area, that's why we're managing. But
Sure.
so what we're doing is creating systems that make it a lot easier, and then once we have a system going, and there's things that I'm doing, I'm looking for ways for me to find somebody else to do what I'm doing so that I can do something else. So
Yep.
And the
So
systems.
go on.
Go ahead, Kat.
I was just going to say these. Can you tell us about? Because I love this systems conversation because you hear it a million times, but it takes something to like get it in my head when I first started addressing this. I'm like, I don't got time for this. I don't got time for this. Like,
right.
So tell me an example of a system that didn't work where you had to iterate through it. Is there something you can think of where you're like, oh man, we tried this thing and it just ended up being way too cumbersome. Then we switched and we found something that was better.
Well, I can tell you one that I need to do that I haven't done that I
I
know
love
is,
it.
I mean, so
Let's hear it.
we're in the process of kind of creating all the systems. So I don't know if we were talking about it earlier, but last April we started an LLC with my two oldest boys, and so we all have three different jobs in the LLC. But one of the things I want to do is create systems, like, because we bought 11 units since April. So, and I'm sure next year we could double that. But if we don't have our systems, we're going to drown, and it's going to be a pain in the butt. So the system of onboarding tenants, how do you advertise for tenants? So if you're working in what I have found, if you're working in a D class area or a low income area, which a lot of ours are, um, places like Zillow and some of these other things, they just don't work. You know what works the best? Marketplace. You know what's the
Facebook.
yeah, it's the
Savage.
worst. It's the worst. But I can tell you, so I had a company that was say they wanted to do the door what do you call it thing? I forget what you call it.
Hangers.
Yeah, not a hanger,
Marketing.
but the thing where people go up and they press in the lockbox, and it
Okay.
was they had a specific system, so you didn't have to go, and they come out and they had a place of mine for 6 weeks and had two people show up. I put it on Facebook Marketplace on a Saturday morning at 6:30 in the morning. By noon, I had 500 responses.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a literal number, right?
Yeah.
Like I've done this
Yep.
as well. Insane.
Yes. And then 2 hours later, we had an open house. 30 qualified people came. I had that thing filled by Monday. But listen, it was a full-time job for me from Saturday morning till Monday morning.
It takes a whole day. You're
Yeah.
responding to 500, and so that's
So,
that was my first rental. The same exact thing. I made my poor wife do it, and she's like, I just
oh man.
150 replies.
Yes.
So tell me how you
All right. So,
systematize.
well, we haven't yet, but my part of it. So in our LLC, I'm finding the properties. I'm finding the money for the properties. I oversee, for the most part, getting them fixed up. Then it's my other son's job to get pictures, put it on Marketplace, advertise it, get tenants, and then he works with the other son, Jacob, and they get leases, all that. So,
Yep.
but what our goal is to take that whole thing and when people respond to the Facebook Marketplace, it immediately sends them to a Google Doc that they have to fill out, which then will get sorted and will show us, give us that. So that eliminates at least 50% right there. Like lots, and I know somebody else is doing this. We haven't gotten this system up and running yet. But that way you take that pain in the neck marketplace and you make it a lot less of a pain. And this guy that I know has his system actually qualifies them for him. Now I don't know that that's legal because I think you have to take them in order of how they're received. But a system that will make that better. That's the biggest part of it right now.
You can, I mean, Bill, we talked about this. You can qualify them, in a legal way. It's like to see if they actually apply. Right?
Yes.
You can send them to, you can do Google Forms as well and just make them fill out a form. And it's like, you get these messages because what is the little Facebook auto message?
Oh,
hey,
is
this still available or whatever? So you get that, and then you could reply to them on Facebook, or you just reply with that Google Doc, and then if you don't fill it out, Bill, I remember way back when I had this same exact issue talking to Bill about it, and he's like, yeah, do this, just give them another link, and then if they're actually mildly serious or they're just spamming, or still available, and they're just ripping through it. That qualifies because there's so many leads, and this funnel is like insanely broad up at the top.
Right. Another system is like having a system for when someone moves out. All right, what happens or let's start back even further. When we buy a property, what's the system? Well, I send all the information, closing docs and everything to my son Jacob. He gets that. He goes on and takes care of the utilities. And then have a system like, all right, what does the property need? So I go in, I get a scope of work, and then we find people to do the scope of work. Then when it's all done, have a walkthrough and a checklist and check everything in there, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll be told, hey, it's ready to rent. And then I go over there, I'm like, this is not ready to rent. So, but if you have if you have a checklist that they have to actually check off all these things, then when I go over there, it should be, because they've checked it off. And then having not only that, like for the when the people move in, have a video walkthrough that they basically say, yes, this is the condition of the place, and what they know, the lease telling them what's expected when they move out, how it needs to be, that kind of thing. So refining all those systems is going to make it much more manageable. And then once we have those systems in place, to try and find people to oversee them so that we can do other things,
Like go to the beach in Florida. Hey, real quick.
Maybe.
Real quick. Today's energy drink. Oh, wait, can we get this? This is a Rockstar tangerine, mango, guava, strawberry. We're not sponsored by yet, but the goal is to get sponsored by Rockstar or Bang or maybe Celsius. And Celsius, we promise we won't sue you for $88 million like Flo Rida did.
I don't drink any of them because I have high blood pressure, but I know my son likes that Celsius one.
That's the one that just lost $88 million.
On what?
Because
somebody sued him?
Want him to they had a rapper, Flo Rida, sponsored him, and in the very beginning when they were a startup company, and then they said they'd give him a percentage, then they didn't, and then I guess he won. But anyways, that's the joke. I don't think I'm gonna get sponsored by Celsius. We joke too much. But anyways, Rockstar or Bang, hit me up.
Looking for sponsors.
There you go.
Go on, Bill.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your Facebook Marketplace process, because this is something that I've toyed with a little bit, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this specifically, but I've gone back and forth between the Google form. For a while, I would respond to everyone and just say, sure, if you'd like to schedule a showing, here are the pre-screening questions, and I try to pre-screen them. And I always say for legality's sake, if somebody asks, you're more than welcome to apply, but, the application's through Zillow. But if you'd like to, see the place, we require pre-screening questions. And then I usually do an open house. I try to have one on the weekend and then one during a weeknight where people after work can go. So I'll do, 3 o'clock on Sunday and then 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday or something. And I'd be like, here are the open house dates. As long as they pre-qualify, go ahead and show up. I've also tried the Google form. It ended up being more complicated than it was worth.
You're
I'm
right.
still trying to refine that process.
Yeah.
And I've also done the whole, I put in the description, if you just ask me if it's available, I'm not even going to respond. And I feel like I'm probably losing out on people, but
Yeah.
for my own sanity, I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I don't, so I get it. It's super frustrating. So, I mean, sometimes I'll respond back. Like sometimes they'll ask question after question that's in the description, and you're like, just read the description. Oh, I'm sorry. And then they come back and ask another question. So sometimes I play with them a little bit, and I'll just answer questions that they don't ask, and just confuses everybody. So that kind of makes it more fun, and I'm not as angry. but
Gotcha.
but
Oh,
no,
that's good.
I guess that we haven't yet to refine it, but that's something that we definitely want to do. I think one of the things that I've learned even in the last year since we started is we can scale quicker with having a team of three. That's been really good. I mean, there's a lot of potential negatives that come with partnerships, so that I'm not recommending them to everybody for sure. Matter of fact, I've been completely against them most of my life, but this is family ones, so we'll see. I've heard that the family ones are more successful typically, so we'll see. But we definitely, because when we didn't know when we got into it exactly how it was going to pan out. We started meeting every Monday at 6 a.m. and came up with an idea and kind of had like tried to work things out, but we really didn't know how we were going to fall into our positions. But we're figuring that out, and it's been pretty cool to watch, to see, because we're all similar but gifted differently, and so the defining those different roles is important, and that's helping us to scale. And I think the more we refine those roles and the systems, the better we're going to be able to scale. And a lot of those systems just are super important. They're a pain, right? It takes time and energy to be organized, but if you're not, it's like trying to organize, like scheduling construction work is like trying to organize paperwork in the middle of a tornado. That's what scheduling construction work is like. But that's like business in general. You have to be, the better organized you are, the more successful you're going to be in the long run. So,
Yeah,
and
I think there's something that I sort of struggle with, and I feel like I can't be the only one. Is I get into this mindset sometimes of, well, I should outsource this to my VA. Having her put all the little signatures on my leases electronically and send it out to the
right,
tenants. And it was a little bit of a time intensive thing of like training her, making a
yeah,
Loom video, making a Google Doc of like, here's how you write up an offer for a property. Here's how you write up a lease. And I constantly find myself having to remind myself that, okay, if I want real estate to feel not as heavy for me, and like making offers and getting more units isn't as much effort, sometimes putting the effort in on the front end to create the system, even though it's more work to create the system than just
yeah,
getting it done yourself, in the long run, you realize that it makes having a bigger portfolio, easier to manage and things like that.
right.
Is that something that you feel like you kind of had to get over a little bit too, of like, oh, I could just do it myself? With 31 years in the
Right.
construction business, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hard transition, honestly. But like, so it took me a while to slowly step off that. Now I'm on the other side of it. I'm like, I mean, everything I want to do, I'm trying to find somebody who can do it for me. Like right now, I've needed a like project manager, because I'm doing a lot of that project management myself. And so now I think I just found somebody. So, um, but yeah, that whole idea of like, oh, I can do this myself, because this community and county we're buying in now is an hour to an hour and a half. It One of the things that made it attractive to me was it's going to force me even more to be hands off. Um, and so now, and then defining the stuff I do day to day, like, should I be doing this? Like, or should I be outsourcing this? But it takes time to train those people, so that can be very frustrating, because you got to put a lot of time in on the front end to get them where you want them to be, and then you might have them trained and then they leave.
Yeah.
So
What was your thought process like going to that new market? I know we've kind of chatted a little bit about this, but tell the listeners kind of where your business was, where it's mainly focused now, and if
Okay.
you could elaborate a little bit on like a current project that you got going on, that'd be great as
Okay.
well.
So I primarily was buying in Berks County. I live in Berks County. I live on the eastern end of Berks County, but I buy a lot in the city of Reading, and have been pretty successful there. We're doing flips and rentals, and um, so then I stumbled across a property in Schuylkill County. Never wanted to buy up there. We drive through that area to go to our hunting cabin every year, and it's like all these dead coal towns, right?
Yeah.
So no interest in going in there. But this property showed up right around the time we were wanting to start our LLC, and I'm like, "Hey guys, you want to look at this?" And it was a 2 unit for 16,000. I'm like,
Pretty
we
cheap.
bought, yeah. So that's what we got into it. We put like I think we put 40 into it. So we have a total of maybe 60 into it total. But it brings in 18 or 1900 a month for that kind of investment. All other people's money. We didn't use any of our own money. And it's worth about 90, 95, I think, in value. So
It's good stuff.
that's what we got. That's what got us started. So I started looking around Schuylkill County and started looking, and I'm like, and the numbers just look good. So that was the first one. Then I found one, a for sale by owner. Then I bought a 2 unit from a wholesaler. I started. I immediately figured out that there was not a good real estate meetup group in that area. So I started a real estate meetup group in that area, and then I took over a. April had started a Facebook group like a couple years ago, and there was like 100 people in it, and she really didn't want to do anything with it. And as soon as she found out I was buying up there, she's like, "You can have this Facebook group." So I've used that to grow our business. There's about 1,100 people that are members of that now. So that's a great resource for our rental. Like when we need electrician, you put on there, "Hey, I need an electrician," and within minutes we're getting people. Um, so that's kind of how we got started in there. We were now looking for stuff there that doesn't need lots of work, that we can not. I don't want to say turnkey because it's not, that term means something else, but basically something that we can buy that's maybe more of a cupcake. It just needs, flooring and paint. And the reason is like stuff that needs major work, it's hard to find contractors. That's a whole nother subject we could talk about, but the shortage of contractors is real across the country, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon. And investors are backing out of deals because they know they can't get contractors to work. So, um, so we're looking for stuff. I can always find contractors to do flooring, paint, stuff like that. But when you're talking major renovations, it takes a lot more. So we're working on. We have a 2 unit we bought in Auburn. Working on getting a tenant out, and then we're going to rehab that unit. And I don't know if you want.
How are you? So this project manager, so you're a contractor, right?
Mhm.
You're capable of guiding these projects along. Let's take the
Yep.
bigger rehabs, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like, well, you don't necessarily want to do that, right? You don't want to
Yeah.
have to like go talk to every single sub. It's like,
Right.
okay, take your standard, rehab, a moderate sized rehab. There's probably what, 4 or 5 subs involved there,
Mhm.
paint, floor,
Yeah.
some like actual contracting, kind of carpentry
Right.
type stuff, right? Plus or minus
Mhm.
roof, whatever, electric. So you got all these subs. So obviously it sounds like you were doing that before, right? You were the PM, and
Yep.
because in a way, a general contractor, this is a licensure number, but when I hear the term general contractor in general, I think of like almost a pseudo PM role as well, a project manager role, because
Yes.
they're guiding this project along. That's if
Yeah.
that's my Capper Construction, my
Mhm.
family, they do custom homes, we do self storage. That's kind of the role there, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
they guide the sub. So how are you? I want to hear that specific process because I'm actually onboarding after this meeting. I'm onboarding our new project manager.
Hmm.
Um, so tell me a little bit how you went about finding the project manager, and then what role are they actually playing in these rehabs?
Right. So general contractor, like what you're talking about, is what is generally thought of as what their job is. But lots of general contractors in our area, they would work on the job every day and they'd have one or two guys, but they'd be hands on. Not really what a true general contractor is in a lot of states, but that's what I was used to.
Yep.
So right now I am doing most project managing, and my son does some of it too. So this, like for instance, this morning I looked at a property in this area, fire damage that I could pick up. Right. So first of all, why wouldn't I want to do the project managing? Well, because I can only manage so much myself, right? And if I had somebody else or several other project managers, they could manage 10, 20, 30 projects at a time total, and I could just oversee the project managers. I can't do that many myself, so that's the reason why. So what it looks like, what it looks like is I'll basically go. I will walk in with the property. Like let's say I buy this property I looked at this morning. I'll take the project manager over there. We'll walk through. We'll make a whole list of stuff that needs to be done.
Yep.
Then I'll say, all right, well, we need to find. I basically want him to get the job done. And now, I don't have all the details worked out yet, but like in the beginning, when he's first starting, I'm gonna want to see the quotes that he gets. But I'm gonna want him to go find contractors, get at least 3 quotes for each job, and then we'll go over those quotes together. So eventually, I don't want to have to go over those quotes. I want him to be like, okay, this is the guy we're using, and we'll set the budget for each thing, and then basically have him overseeing them, setting the timeline, and getting the job moving and doing it a lot faster than I've been doing.
Sure. And so, I always think about kind of going to the job site and overseeing like the actual subcontractors to make sure that there's no
Yes.
clashes there, or these major issues can come up, right? One
Hmm.
guy, does one thing, and it's like, oh shoot, you shouldn't have done that yet. Now it's gonna our electricity guy, our electric or plumbing is gonna have to redo this whole thing. It's
Right.
a
Yeah.
big debacle. So who is the person performing that role? Like, does your PM have that those contracting chops to like see these specific problems, or is he more of a scheduler, getting quotes, planning, and then just having
Um,
the GC that you're hiring for each project look at the physical project?
no, he will do both of those things. He will get them, organize them, oversee them, be on the job. Not necessarily every day, but like he'll be handling them. I mean, you're talking new constructions. I understand what you're talking about. You don't necessarily need somebody there. You need somebody there to coordinate all three. Not necessarily every day, maybe, but
Yeah,
I know like some electricians and plumbers get mad at each other because they run wires where they're trying to put ductwork or plumbing, and
yeah,
yeah. Um, so those things inevitably come up, but that's where once the project manager kind of knows how the systems are, like in new construction, if they're familiar with it, they'll see those things ahead of time and be like, hey, no, you can't do that. But when you're training somebody new, you're going to have some hiccups.
sure.
You're right.
Sure. But you kind of just take it as it comes. You get your
Yeah.
head project manager and kind of like scale him up,
Right.
train him a little bit as well.
And for me, looking like I'll take this person and find out what they're good at, And this person actually came to me, and as they were talking to me, they wanted to be involved with our business somehow. They wanted to learn how to scale and stuff like that. And as he was talking, I'm like, this is the project manager that I need, you know. So we're working through that right now, and hoping to use him. And I'll pay him as a project manager out of the funds, and he's going to be a 1099. I'm not going to hire him full time. He'll work for good family investors and or good rents and maybe even good contracting too. So, you know,
All right, sounds good. So you got the successful contracting business. You were successful building up your own rental portfolio again. Now you got this LLC with your sons. It sounds like things are moving in the right direction. You're getting a project manager on board, but sounds like you don't want to retire. What's kind of that end vision look like for you? Like where are you headed? Where do you want to scale to? What it sounds like now, you're focusing a lot on project management and you want to sort of get away from that. What's the
Yeah.
next thing that you're focusing on?
So as far as my like portfolio and stuff goes, I'm more interested in. So like I've been in a very much of a building mode for a long time. Like just head down. I mean, in 4 years we've done a lot, and it's essentially been part time because I've also had the construction business. So like I often thought if I didn't have the construction business, and I just focused on real estate, how much more could we do? So um, where we're at now, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to step away more and more from my construction business, and more of that handing over that to my son. We're scaling down what we do to really just focus on a few things. Um, I'm looking for quality over quantity in when it comes to my rentals. So that means maybe instead of owning 50 of them, I'll go down to owning half of them, and I'll have them paid off. That a lot of people that like building don't think that's a great idea to have lots of equity, but I have a good friend who's sitting on in Key Largo for right now for his second month because he sold 35 of his 75 units and doesn't owe anything on the rest and is making very good money. So it all depends what you want out of it. But so I'm looking to buy more time through scaling and systems in my business. We're focusing a lot on building our LLC with the boys, but our vision for that is a little different than and that's kind of evolving. But we're using some of our funds to support some nonprofits. That's one of our goals for it, and eventually for the boys to maybe to not have to work their day jobs. We'll see. We're not really sure exactly where it's going to go, but like in a short 6 months, or no, it's whatever 9 months it has been. We have about $750,000 worth of properties. We owe 300,000 on those. Like, and are cash flowing 2,500 to 3,000 a month profit. So in 8 months, that we've created that already. Like, so I look at that and I'm like, where's the sky's the limit to what we could do. So really now helping to define the future of that business and how it grows. We're going to take some of the profits instead of maybe buying more properties. We're going to do private lending with it. Maybe invest in syndications that are more passive. So that's as far as that business. That's what I'm going to help try and build and steer that.
I might have
And then,
one of those coming up for you, by the way, Troy.
what's that? A syndication?
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, let me know about it.
I just had to chime in. I'm like,
Hey, no,
but that's part of this podcast. Is like
yes,
building this, investors that are interested.
yeah,
That's truly passive, right?
right. So I mean, no. So my personal stuff, like I said, probably getting rid of some of the ones that are more annoying and having less, but having more income from them, a little more, I guess, a little safer, and then using that equity for other stuff. Like I said, I want to buy in other markets. So, like I said, I just bought 6.5 acres in Tennessee last week, and I'm buying another lot there next week. So kind of that's fun for me. My son lives down there, so it's an excuse to go see him. Just to do stuff like that to make it like if I want to travel somewhere, like buy something where I'm going to travel.
There you go.
That kind of stuff.
What's the plan with the land down there?
Well, I'm either going to just flip it and resell it. If I can't do that, I'm going to probably build something on it, and then either keep it and rent it out or sell it. The smaller lot, there's a mobile home on it. I'm going to remove that and probably just resell it. But if I can't resell it, I'm going to put another mobile home on it and like do a rent to own or sell it like that. So,
Okay,
you know,
cool. So as we
You don't
start to
happen
kind of
Oh, sorry. I was
Go
going to
ahead,
say,
Kat.
you don't happen to know the population in a 1, 3, and 5 mile radius, and that's a 6-acre lot, do you?
I don't right now.
We'll calculate a quick self-storage demand, and
Well, and I can tell you, it's not. You can't put it on there. It's a sloped lot, and it's not in an area where the. I don't know. It's not. It's not a good spot. But maybe the other lot.
Hey, just think of it. Hey, you see any land out there, Tennessee, that needs a
Okay.
little storage action?
All right. Yeah, we'll talk afterwards about that because I'm looking. I've got a. What? So I'll just quickly tell you how I kind of did things to get embedded in that area. So my son was planning. He told me a month before, "Hey, I'm moving down there." Okay. I said, "All right, I'll take you down." So a couple weeks before I went down, I started joining all these Facebook groups from that area. And I put on a picture of me and my older two boys and said, "Hey, I'm an investor from PA. We might be buying down there." All the wholesalers started reaching out to me. I connected with one and I thought, you know what? I'm going to schedule a real estate meetup meeting when I come down there. So we planned one, invited a whole bunch of people. I was going to be the speaker, right? So when I got down there, I had a meeting set up for myself to speak at, and there were like 40 investors there. So what a great way to meet people, right? So I immediately, and then about a week before I went down there, somebody saw the post from Nashville, and they were like, "Can you come speak at one of our events?" I'm like, "Well, if you schedule it for September 10th when I'm driving home, I'll stop in and speak." So I got to speak at an event in Nashville on the way home. So like, there's so many ways to get connected with people, and it's not that difficult with like Facebook and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah, the
So
power. I hate to say it, social media has its own issues, and we've talked
yes,
about this sometimes. But but looking at social media as a tool and not
yeah,
just an algorithm that steals your attention and like pollutes your
yes,
brain,
right,
as a tool for actually marketing, right?
yes,
And I look at some of these Facebook groups, and I do actually think they're very, very useful, and the people that you can meet and the reach that you can get.
yeah,
I look at my website, even one post, and you'll get so many of these organic visitors,
yes,
and the networks that you can maintain. But that's a kind of
yeah,
cool trick. You set up that meeting in a new area, and you're the
yeah.
speaker, and you're like,
Yeah, I
all
know.
right,
I don't.
Troy's coming to town.
Well, I don't even know if I think most of them thought I was from there until I started talking. I didn't have the accent. So,
Yeah,
but I do a lot of speaking at different meetup groups on how to deal with contractors. And with April, we created a course called Rehab Boss, and it's a course that they sell through their thing about how to find contractors, how to work with them from an investor standpoint. So um, I get to talk about that, but I like talking about, like, I'm a huge networker. I've been
yeah,
called like a serial networker, so I do a pretty good job at that. And like just today, like that lead I went to look at, um, that I got called 2 days ago. That guy lives an hour away. He doesn't know me. He was talking to a buddy of his who doesn't know me but knows of me from the Facebook group. And that's how I got that, because I created a Facebook group and had that. So it's not rocket science. Anybody can do it. Um, but it's just it is always cool to see where everything comes from. And another guy just got called for a roof job, and he saw he said, "I see your trucks all over the place. We have one truck with our name on it." Like, I have another truck, but it doesn't have my name on it. So just all those little things lead to success long term.
Gotcha.
absolutely.
So as we start to sort of wrap this up, I want to be respectful of your time, Troy.
Hmm.
Like, what what is the piece of advice that you would give to other people? They see that you're successful with your contracting, your rentals, you're scaling this business, master networker if you want to go there. Like how would somebody starting from, let's say being a contractor or just being a W-2 employee looking to get into rentals, what would you tell them on, how to get where you're at if that's the goal?
So there's two sides of it. Like, on one side, I'm like, yeah, you got to dive in, you got to go for it. But there's also people who, um, but you also have to get educated to some degree. So people who often dive in alone are the ones who get hurt. So I think the best thing you can do is start to educate yourself, kind of know yourself. Like, are you the kind of person that analyzes everything? Because we have some students who They analyze everything and they get in this analysis paralysis thing, where they're talking about it and they feel good because they're involved, but they're not doing anything. So there's this back and forth. But we tell everybody, if you're just starting out, you got to find somebody to partner with to get started. Like if you're coming, like you can't expect the bank to give you money or a private lender to give you money if you've never done any of this. Like you're a huge risk. So you have to look at what you legitimately bring to the table. Um, so if you partner with a contractor, that's one thing I would recommend. If you finding the deal, if you're looking for deals, find a good deal and then look for a partner. But that's what I would recommend as how to get into it. Go to meetup groups and start connecting with people. Connect with people on Facebook that are doing it, and then find somebody that you can trust and that you can partner with that has some things that you don't have. I partner with people who don't have experience and they don't have money. But they found a deal. So they come to me and they find this deal, and so we flip projects together. Just put one on the market right now with a realtor, and he found the deal. I brought the money, and then we oversaw it together because he lives close to there, and it's worked out great. And it's a way
That's
that he can get money
literally
to
my
start.
model. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's so we just so I figured this out like 8 months ago. I put up a quick video on our investing storage site, and I'm
Hmm.
like, hey, if you're a first timer, you got some land, like you were saying. I'm like, hey, Troy, you got any land?
Yeah.
And
Right.
but we've found that this market of folks that like have, because it's everywhere, right? You have so many people looking at deals. You can only look for so many, but then
Yeah.
there's the folks without experience, and so that's something that I would echo that exact sentiment. Like we're seeing it now. I'm getting calls all the time, like, "Hey, I got this piece of land. What do you think of it?" And so
Right.
that helps me to get that word out there, because then it's like I can kind of cherry pick. People come to me. I say, that deal looks okay. Here's what I might do if I were you. You can try this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
The demand's not there for self storage. Maybe try it super slow or something. Or if it's a great deal, then I'm like, hey, let's talk. I really do think this is a good deal. I'd be willing to go into
Right.
business with you.
Yeah. But you've created whatever you've done is created the people bringing the deals to you, and
And that's what this is. That's this podcast
yeah.
too. That's
And
what I do.
people ask me all the time, they're like, how do you find your deals? Because I don't market. I don't market. I mean, I've just started marketing in Tennessee, but like sending mail there. But I found 50 properties without looking for them. You know what I mean? Like I don't look on the MLS. I haven't looked on the MLS in who knows how long. Everything I bought is off market, and people bring them to me, and it's just because of the networking that I've been doing. And some people will be like, well, that's just your personality. You've been in business forever. No, I started in Schuylkill County in April. April. That's not even a year. And like I got a lead I looked at this morning from a guy who doesn't know me telling another guy that doesn't know me to call me. Like because of that group. So it takes work to do it. It's like people say, how do you find a good contractor? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to find them. So you have to be willing to put in the work and the training. I have a friend in Atlanta who wanted to learn about rehab costs and stuff. She paid a contractor $250 for every house he would go look at with her. Now, it wasn't just to go and look. He had to write up an estimate and go over it with her, but she essentially paid for her own training to get more insight onto how to do rehab costs.
Yeah.
So,
What's the name of the group, by the way? The Facebook group.
it's the Facebook group in Schuylkill County. Give me 1 second here.
Schuylkill
I have it
County Real
somewhere.
Estate. Schuylkill County Real Estate Investors. I'm sure it'll pop right up.
Schuylkill County Real Estate Investors Group.
There you go. You got it.
Yep.
I'll go ahead and shill elite self storage operators as well. That's our
Okay.
storage group. So yeah, but the power of these groups and the connections. That's funny you mentioned, like just putting out there. Hey, does anybody have a good electrician? And
Oh my gosh, yeah.
but think about the value of that one stupid little thing. It's like you
Yeah.
could have messed around. And Bill and I talked about this. We always go back to it. Like, Bill, how'd you find this guy?
Well, I tell you that electrician post. Um, I was like, all right, we need an electrician. So I posted it. I Googled it. Within a half an hour, I had 3 to 4 guys lined up. Not only that, I had a lead on 2 off-market properties from talking to people on the phone for half an hour about it. Like, it's not rocket science to me, but you have to put in the time and the work. And I mean, depending on your personality, it's a lot easier for some than others, you know. But listen, I hate talking on the phone as much as the next person, right? But you know, you got to do what you got to do. I have a good friend down in Tennessee who actually he's not he's my was my son's roommate. Started 21 years old, started in real estate last January. By September he did 60 deals. 60. 21 years old, doesn't know anything. You know how he did it? 4 hours a day cold calling.
Wow.
4 hours. Yeah. So he put in the
Incredible.
work. Put in the work to do it. So yeah.
Wow. Any terrible advice you've ever received?
Oh, there's lots of that out there. I'm not a big fan of all these rules. It's the 1% rule, the 70% rule. Like, I, I think those are all bad advice. Like, I think you look at each individual property, and because they're all unique, and analyze it, and you can use those rules as a tool, but you have to factor it in. Going it alone, I think, is just you can go longer, further with other people. I think the value of that is underestimated. It's not easy because there's all when you have people, there's problems, right? But and I think you have to if you're not a people person. I love people. I love meeting people. I love hearing people's stories. I love encouraging and helping people. So that's one of the reasons I like doing this, even this kind of stuff, because if it can help somebody get started, I the power of real estate is amazing. I mean, I'm not a guru. I don't like. I'm not trying to sell anyone on it, but like, I can just tell you what we've done. Like in 8 months, we've built equity of 2 or 300,000 and a cash flowing machine, right? That is going to feed us for a long time. And you know, it's one thing to make money and to do that. Now it's the real test is how we manage it, because it's a whole other skill set to manage business, right? So knowing what each person's good at and knowing that about business. Like some people are really. I have a friend who's like, I can make money. I can make money hand over fist. He said, I just can't hold on to it. You know. So there's knowing a lot about yourself and what you're good at, and then finding team members to complement you that are different than you.
Dude,
You know.
that's every podcast episode. I feel like I've said this almost every episode. There's somebody special that I'm like dedicating this wise bit of knowledge to. Normally it's my dad if it's a contractor on the show. But this
Mm.
one, there's a special guy that I've been trying to convince him to partner with me for a long
Mm.
time. That's Mr. Bill Goodland right there. Bill and I don't have a deal yet, by the way,
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
But I think this episode goes out to my boy Bill.
Well, it's gonna happen. We just gotta find the right deal. You
All
know?
right, we'll find the right one. I like it.
You know what they say, what you focus on, where you focus is where your energy flows. So, maybe you guys need to put your heads a little bit, or Jordan, you got to twist his arm a little bit. I don't know what's going on there,
That's
but
it. Yeah. I think we got. I think we just have to formalize a plan. So
yeah,
we'll do
Yeah,
one
the right
together, Bill.
the right deal's
Box.
coming along.
A nice
All right,
big
Troy.
square
Yeah.
box.
Yeah. So you're not a big fan of these rules, the 1% rule, the 70% rule.
no,
If somebody wanted to do a deal with you, bring you a deal, what are you looking for in a deal? If somebody wanted to do a deal with you, or you were going to buy a deal from them, let's say.
so what I'm looking for, and this is maybe unrealistic to some people. This is what I buy. I buy primarily off market, although I believe that MLS, there's going to be more deals coming on the market. I know some of our students are buying them now. But I look for something that I have instant equity in, value add, like tired landlords, like the one we bought, stuff that I can decrease expenses and increase rents. Um, we're not looking for real distressed properties right now because of the time factor. But if we didn't have anything else going, I would do something like that. Um, But so I'm looking for people. I'll partner with certain people. I'm looking primarily in the Berks and Schuylkill areas to do that. Although I'm open to it just about anywhere if the right deal's there. So
Looking for flips, buy and holds, depends on
both.
the deal.
Yeah, I mean with partners to primarily doing flips.
Yeah.
Um, so depending on the property, sometimes we look at it and might be like, hey, we could partner on this to flip it, or or if you don't want it, I'll buy it and I'll keep it as a rental and pay them a fee, that kind of thing. So, yeah, so I'm looking to I'm always looking to expand, but with the rentals and the flipping, um, so that's kind of what we're looking for. Multi units, of course, but they're like few and far between to find.
Yeah,
So,
I hear you. That's why I kind of am focusing on singles right now. I
yeah.
like the multis. That everybody's fighting for them. So if I could be good at singles, that's all.
And you know what, Bill? So I have a friend in Atlanta who has like 30 units, and talking to them about the whole multifamily versus singles, because single families, there's this thing like people start out, they buy singles, but then they graduate to the multifamily, right? And it always kind of ticks me off because I'm like, yeah, but you did that to build to get to the multifamily. Like you can't just always dive into a 100 unit by yourself, right? It's hard to do. But this guy in Atlanta told me he has 30 units. His singles outperform his multis
I believe
all
it.
the time because he's had to pay more to get the multi units, right? So I know I had a 10 unit. That was one of the ones. If I had to go back, Jordan, yeah, I might have kept that 10 unit. That was pretty nice.
Sure.
But yeah.
There you go. So, all right, as we wrap up, where can people, hear more about you? How can our audience support you? Sending
Okay.
you a deal, joining your groups, coaching. Give us your.
Right. So on Facebook, you can find us at Good Contracting LLC, um, Good Family Investors LLC, and same on Instagram. And then also the group that I'm in with April is called Lazy Girl REI, and that's a good resource to be involved in there. And there's all kinds of stuff on there. So,
Awesome. You got a meetup too?
so the Schuylkill County Meetup group, yeah. If you get on the Schuylkill County Facebook page, we advertise everything on there for that. So, and I don't know, Bill, I do the guys. It's a guys
Yeah.
only meetup group. Some of the ladies give me a hard time about that, but we do. It's a random. I call it like a pop up meetup. We don't. I just do it when I feel like it. So where people, guys will text me and they'll be like, "Hey, when's the next one?" And we do it in random places, random times. It's always at like a place that serves food and beverages. So, and we focus on the networking, not the education part, because my feeling is you can get all the education in one on YouTube. So
Yeah.
the networking part, it's been really successful. The guys have loved it. So
Yeah, I've gone to a couple and it's awesome and probably
yeah,
one of my favorite meetups. So
yeah,
awesome. Well,
cool.
thanks so much, Troy, for coming
Sure.
on and sharing your story, man. I'm excited to see where you're going from here because it sounds like you're scaling up pretty quick.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
it, Troy. Much appreciated, my friend. Excellent to meet you.
All right, Jordan.
All
And
right.
we'll talk about some storage stuff later.
Yeah, buddy. I like it. I like it. We'll rope poor Bill in on the.
All right. Maybe the three of us can do a deal together, huh?
Go, man.
Yep.
Yeah, the land.
Absolutely.
Find that land.
Yep. I'll
Yep.
find
Sounds
some.
good.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Yep. For the Bill and Kap Show, I'm Bill.
Cap.